Hi and welcome to Rhetoric. This is the second episode of me building myself a Pentium 233 MMX. In the first episode, we built the computer, we installed the motherboard, all the cables, all the cards, everything we needed. Now we are ready to install Windows 98. I downloaded this unattended boot CD for Windows 98 version 4.8. I have been using this CD for a few years now. It's basically a Windows 98 distribution with all the drivers and basically everything you need. After the Windows 98 is installed, it will let us select which other software we want to use. So we can decide for ourselves how much we want to install or not. I have already partitioned the hard drive. I chose menu item P for partition menu, removed the old partitions, created a new partition, maximum size, and rebooted the computer, and we are back here. We can now choose I to install Windows 98 with the default settings, but I want to do some changes. I want to use my keyboard and my country settings. So instead of choosing I for install, I will choose S for the settings menu. I'm choosing key for keyboard, and I will find my keyboard. And there we have changed it to Norwegian. Correct. And regional settings, let's change that too. We now have Norwegian and time zone. Yes, the computer ID choices we will just leave default. Also, these settings for where it's going to be installed and the screen resolution and colors, we will just keep that. And now we can choose I for install. Since we made changes, we want to use those. So we need to press P to use the custom options. And there we can see all the things we just configured. And it still kept the product key. So we will just press any key to continue. The installation will run for approximately 45 minutes before we hit an error. So let me take this time to tell you about the one change I made. I saw that the motherboard had a connector for a PS2 mouse, so I decided to use that port. I had one PS2 port laying around, but of course, the connector going to the motherboard was the wrong type, so I decided to solder on a DuPont wire and use that instead. And I have to say that worked very good. I did one more change. We only had 64 megabytes of RAM, so I replaced that with two RAM chips of 128 megabytes each for a total of 256 megabytes. I think that should be enough for Windows 98. So after about 45 minutes, Windows was finished installing all the files and was ready to boot for the first time. But as we can see here, it's stuck. It cannot load Windows. So I tried again in safe mode, and it booted up. So then I thought that maybe there was some problems with the hard drive or the hard drive drivers. So I went back into the BIOS and I turned off Ultra DMA and tried again. And what do you know? It worked. And Windows 98 is installed. It took 1.5, maybe 2 hours. It's quite a long time. But the only place I had to stop and do something was because of the hard disk driver. So when turning off Ultra DMA in the BIOS, I could continue installing. So as we have proved here, using the unattended boot CD, you can install Windows 98 with all the newest updates and drivers very easy and totally automatical. So let's check and see what the device manager says. Okay, it has a problem with the mouse. It says it's a VMware pointing device. I've seen this on other machines and I've tried to delete it, the device, it just come back, so I'm just leaving it. It still has problems with the drivers for the Ethernet controller, so we will have to look into that. And it has some problems here with the sound card and some advanced power management. I guess this is something we can fix in the BIOS. It says that advanced power management is not present, so maybe I just need to enable that in the BIOS. Okay, it cannot find a free interrupt. Okay, let's come back to that. And the MPU, it's also the interrupt it's looking for. Okay, so we'll look into that. We also see that it's using the standard VGA driver, so it's not using our VGA driver, but I guess we'll start there. We'll start with the VGA driver and the Ethernet. Now I will try to insert this USB stick with some drivers. That looked very promising. This distribution of Windows 98 has support for universal USB drivers. There we are. So now I'm copying all the drivers that I made ready for this machine. So we have some drivers that came from the motherboard, and we have a network driver and a Voodoo Rush driver. If I remember correctly, this driver is for our graphics card with the 3DFX add-on card. So let's try this and see if it works. Okay, so as far as I can tell, this is the driver for the Alliance AT3D card. It has Direct 5 support and Glide support for the Voodoo Rush chip. So it needs an Intel 60 MB of RAM and DirectX 5 or higher installed. If I remember correctly, DirectX 9 should already be installed on this computer from the unattended boot CD. Choose display, settings tab, advanced. Yeah, we'll keep the existing and newer version of this file. Power management disabled. Let's enable that and see if that also removes that error in the device manager. It looks like the graphics card driver is installed, but something is wrong. Let's try this mode. That worked. Okay, let's keep it there for a while. We have some artifacts. I'm not sure the camera shows it, but yeah, you see it there. When I'm moving a window, something stays behind. This looks like a driver problem and could even be a hardware problem, maybe a memory problem. Let's press advanced and see what it says about the adapter. Direct Draw 1. Okay, it says Voodoo Rush. Memory size 2 MB. When I'm using IDA to check the card, it says that it has 6 MB of memory. We'll keep it there for now, and we will have a look at the device manager and see that the display adapter is now installed. Looks good. The error message on advanced power management support is gone. So as we thought, it was just to enable it in BIOS. We still have no Ethernet controller. Copy that path and reinstall driver. Next, specify a location and Control C. Let's see. Looks good. Okay, the network adapter is now working. We can remove the dial-up adapter and the dial-up adapter for VPN support and Microsoft Virtual Private Networking adapter. So now we have the Etherlink adapter, TCP/IP, and yes, it has also received an IP address. And we can even ping the internet. So the network adapter is working very good. Next issue is the sound card. So why is it not able to find any free interrupts? Okay, interrupt 5 is used by the TRICOM card. Okay, that is not good because interrupt 5 is a very good interrupt for our Sound Blaster, at least in DOS. And the EU ranges looks okay. This is for the Sound Blaster itself, and this is for the joystick port, and this I think is for the MIDI. They look okay. So basically the only thing it cannot find is available interrupt 6. Let's just double check also the MPU and see what resources it wants to use. Interrupt 9, and it just says that PCI bus is using that. Maybe we'll find some hint for that in the BIOS, but first, one important thing. As you remember, we are using a SSD drive. And the reason we chose an SSD over a compact flash was because we're doing a lot of writing. Windows has a lot of stuff going on in the background, and that means a lot of logging. And that means that the SSD will go, I think, slower after a while because it's not running the trim command. If you don't know what trim is, just Google it, SSD and trim. You will find articles about it. There is a tool that is written for DOS that does that. A DOS tool that does. Then we'll try the trim tool, and we'll put that in the root drive. There we have it. And I read that we should just put that in auto exec bat, so it's always run when we start a computer. So let's do that. Okay, we have entered the trim command in the auto exec bat, save, and let's do that reboot. I'm not sure it did anything. Maybe we should have entered some sort of parameter after the command. Let's reboot in DOS mode just to check that trim command. Okay, trim C:, it just gave us some information. Start and end, I don't know. Let's try start. No. Ooh, enter to abort. Holy. Okay, what do we know about trim? Well, we know it has to do with free space. So let's try trim free. Ooh, do not continue if partition has not passed scan disk. Trim operation is irreversible. Ooh, no, let's run scan disk. Yep, this is the command to run, so let's enter that into the auto exec bat. Okay, so now we have learned how to trim an SSD drive from DOS. Good, one problem solved. No, sound card still not getting interrupt 5. Okay, plug and play operating system. It says controlled by, well, we have an operating system that is plug and play, and Windows 98 is supposed to be that. Let's, no, let's see what happens if we enable this and it resets the configuration data. Maybe by some luck it will fix everything. No luck. Okay, let's go back to the BIOS, but let us fix one thing while we are at it. We don't need to show this code page loading every time we boot Windows. So let us type in echo off. Okay, so resetting it did not work. Let's control it manually. Maybe the problem is that we are using an ESA card, and maybe it has some problems with plug and play on that. I don't know. So let's say set interrupt 5 and interrupt 9 to legacy ISA. Maybe that will fix it. Look at that. Wasn't that much nicer than all the text that was there earlier? Ooh, do you see that? We have a speaker icon in a corner. Maybe that means that the sound card is working. Well, yes, probably something is working. Okay. It wants to use interrupt 9, but it says that it's used by the PCI bus. Even we forced it to use something else. Let's see what we can use. 9 and 11. I'm pretty sure we set it to legacy ISA. But still, and the only two values we can choose is 9 and 11. And 11 is also used by the USB host controller. We are at least one step closer. Let's enable this one. Now the network card is enabled, and I guess it's using interrupt 5. No, now it's using interrupt 10. That is okay for us. So only one resource conflict left, and that is the MPU 401. Looks like the BIOS will not let us use interrupt 9. I don't know why, but interrupt 9 has a special function. Maybe we could try using interrupt 11 instead. Let's set it to interrupt 11 and go into the BIOS and also set it there for legacy ISA and see what happens. Okay, legacy ISA on interrupt 5 and interrupt 11. And we'll also choose the reset just to see if that helps. Since we are changing the interrupt 11, I think it makes sense to enable reset for the next reboot. Yes, no conflicts. This is looking good. Very good. So, I have downloaded drivers for the motherboard and the USB interface, but I'm not sure we need them. The motherboard provider has made this patch list of Windows 95 unrecognized devices and Windows 98 unrecognized devices. But the thing is that we don't have any unrecognized devices. So I'm not sure if I want to install this patch, since the drivers included on this unattended Windows 98 distribution are very new, and they have been working very well for me on other computers. If the drivers I'm using are not optimal, that could also be a problem. And if I install that patch, can I uninstall it? Probably not, because it will probably make a lot of changes to several things here. If we look at the list, it will change the host to bridge. Yeah, it has a list here, so that makes it easier for us to go back if we want to revert any of these drivers. What the hell, let's just do it and see if we can revert if we need to. Maybe also Windows will ask us if we want to keep a newer version. Okay, that was quick. Okay, the new drivers are installed, and let us have a look at the one we looked at earlier. And okay, now it has today's state there. Driver details, it looks like it's the same version. Okay, so we have installed the patches or the motherboard drivers that the motherboard manufacturer suggests, and well, everything looks okay. So let us try to install some games and test that graphics card further. I don't think the graphics card is working. I think that 4 megabytes of the total 6 megabytes of RAM are not working. But we will run some tests and test the 3DX or DirectX. We will test DirectX and Glide or Voodoo games. So let's copy over some games. Yeah, okay. It looks like 3DFX, yeah, alright. But super buggy. Okay, the one good thing is that I'm pretty sure what we saw there was created by the 3DFX Voodoo chip, so we have contact with it. Ooh. That was slow. But I think we have 3DFX. I think we are using the Voodoo. Yeah, if we had been using the Direct 3D version or driver now, we would have a choice here to select resolution, but I remember that is gone on the 3DFX version. Okay, I think we have a winner. No, we don't. We just have another loser. Okay, this is not 3DFX. This looks like it's software rendering. I'm putting my finger on the 3DFX chip, and I cannot hold it there for more than a second. So the chip is very hot. So could be that it's burnt inside. Anyway, we'll stop there, and I need to figure something out what to do instead, but we cannot continue with this graphics card. I have removed the 3DFX add-on card, and now the artifacts are gone. As we see here, it looks much nicer. We don't have any artifacts or rogue pixels or anything. It looks quite good. But let's just check how much memory we have. It was 2 megabytes earlier, but it's supposed to be, it's still only 2 megabytes. But the explanation could be that the 4 extra megabytes are on the add-on card. It looks like it has 4 memory chip on the right side. Anyway, this card looks like it's working a lot better now. So I have installed a new graphics card. I've chosen a Matrox Mystique 220 and a Voodoo card. Actually, a Voodoo 2 card. So let us see how this works. Looks like the graphics card driver is working. At least we have all colors here and a better resolution. It just confirms what I already know about this Windows unattended boot CD. It has most drivers and very up-to-date, probably the most up-to-date drivers available. Let's check. Yeah, only the Voodoo 2 card needs drivers, so we'll do that. Okay, I've downloaded Voodoo drivers. These are supposed to be the newest official drivers, but we also have these unofficial fast Voodoo drivers. I have never used them before, so I think we'll try that first. We are looking for the old drivers from the Voodoo Rush card we removed, so let us remove those. That was very quick. Next step is to reboot the computer, and it should detect the Voodoo 2 card, and we should only need to point it to the folder where we just unzipped all the drivers. I think I'm gonna move that folder. Putting it in a temp folder was not probably the best idea. So I'll move it just all the way up to drivers, because this is a folder that we will use for opening things like the tools and stuff, demos and all kinds of stuff in here. Okay, so that's basically where it's now unzipped. Let us do a reboot. The machine is reboot. It didn't ask for the drivers, but that was probably because the Voodoo card was installed many boots ago. So let's go in here and choose reinstall drivers. And specify the location where we unzip the fast Voodoo 2 drivers. Okay, enable. Let's do it once more. And maybe we need to point to the subdirectory. Fast Voodoo 2 drivers 9x. Did you also see how the OK button changed? So that means it found some ENF files in that catalog. So let's do it again. Oh yes. We'll keep the newer files. We have always done that so far in this video. And the 3DFX Voodoo 2 card is found. Let us go in and see what we can find in the Fast Voodoo 2 driver catalog. Under Tools, Demos, Donut. Let's just try the first one, the 2x. Oh, it's so nice when things work. Okay, so we get 35, 38 frames per second in 800 by 600. It says that the VSync is on. Let's try the Donut Glide 3x. So the Glide 3x drivers are a good deal faster, almost 10 frames, at least 8 frames faster in the same resolution. Nice. So here we are in the display settings. We have a new tab called 3DFX. We can set resolution for both direct 3D and glide at the same time. And just some information about the driver, some system information. It has total texture memory of 8 megabytes. We have an advanced. Okay, let's not do anything there yet. And the utility. And this is a utility that will check for duplicate glide drivers. I think that is actually quite good to get rid of the glide drivers from other versions that have been has been used on this system. Look at this. Glide 248, 256, 256, 248. And they are all invalid drivers. Okay, we can run it again and enable file renaming. So let's do that. Allow to rename. Okay. And there we are. It has now renamed those to DLX instead of DLL. Okay. Oh, nice. Let us try 800 by 600. Oh yeah, it's working. It says 3DFX Interactive Voodoo, so this looks very good. Oh, look at that speed. Oh my god. 800 times 600. Ooh, this is playable. Oh, love it. Okay, so it's been a success. We finally got the graphics card working. Wow! Finally, we got the graphics cards, both of them working. We have a Matrix Matrix Mystique 220 and a Voodoo 2 card, and it looks fantastic. Should we try one more game? Maybe Descent. Ooh, this screen is new. Yep, and it says 3DFX down in the corner. Oh. Oh yes, this is 3DFX quality. Thank you. Wow. So let us run a hard disk or SSD disk speed test. After the test, I will try to do some changes in the BIOS and see if we can improve on the hard drive speed. About 8 megabytes per second write speed and about 9.3 megabytes per second read. While we were waiting for the speed check to complete, I fixed this cable. It did not have a hole in the middle pin there, so I just used a drill and made a hole. So this is a 80-pin cable. So the hope is that with this cable we can activate Ultra DMA 33. So changing the cable from 40 pin to 80 pin or 80 wired didn't do much of an improvement. Let us do a reboot and do some changes in the BIOS. So let's enable Ultra DMA. This motherboard supports Ultra DMA 33. So it's disabled for the secondary because there's nothing there, so I can disable this too. Doesn't matter. No, that did not work. Even with a 40-pin IDE cable, we cannot boot when the BIOS is set to Ultra DMA. Too bad, because I really feel that I'm not using this SSD for its full potential. So running Windows in safe mode works even when the BIOS is set to Ultra DMA 33. So that tells me that the problem here is the Windows 98 Ultra DMA driver. So could we change that somehow? Okay, I'll replace the Kingston driver with the standard disk drive. Let's reboot and see now. Okay, changing the disk drive from the Kingston to just a generic disk drive did not change anything. let's put our attention to the hard drive controller, the primary. So this is the one that it's using. We can also choose the VIA bus master. Now that has the same date. Is that the one we are using? Yeah, maybe. It's hard to say. That name is the same. Okay, let's try this one. And if that don't work, we'll try these down here. And if that won't work, I'm pretty sure we have some standard Microsoft drivers too. Let's see. Yeah, they're standard disk drivers. Yeah. Standard bus mastering, dual. Okay, so we have several things we can try. I have been fiddling with these hard disk controller drivers for a while now. I tried all the drivers that had anything to do with VIA, and some did not work, but most worked. But still, I could not enable DMA on the hard disk. So I settled with these drivers. These are actually standard IDE hard disk drivers from Microsoft. The boot time was about 20 seconds faster with these standard Microsoft drivers than with any of the VIA drivers. So we have one more thing we want to do before we conclude on the speed, and that is to run this speed test. This benchmark is very close to what we started with. So all my fiddling with the 80 wired IDE cable, the Ultra DMA 33, turning that on and off in the BIOS, trying with all the VIA drivers for the hard disk controller, using the Windows or Microsoft standard hard disk controller. All these things that I've done these last 2 hours has done nothing for the hard drive speed. But I had fun doing it. I still think we can get a faster disk in this machine, but maybe it's not the drivers or the cables that are the problem, and I don't think it's the SSD drive. So then we have one thing left, and that is the adapter, the SATA to PATA adapter. So I have ordered a new adapter. I have no idea if that's fast or not, but if it is, I will let you know on my channel. So to summarize, we have built a Pentium 233 MMX. We used a new old stock cabinet, and we have a Voodoo 2 card and Windows 98 with the new drivers and a lot of new stuff. I didn't get time to tell you about all the software that is available on the unattended boot CD. But trust me, just by putting the CD in the drive and starting it, you will have a menu with a lot of software that is very easy to install. So I recommend that you download the unattended boot CD and check it out. So big thanks to you who have followed me for over an hour on YouTube to see how this PC came to life. I hope you have enjoyed yourself, and I hope you learned something. As always, I've loved doing this, so if you like it, please come back and check out my new videos. See ya.